You know, it just doesn't. I'm very perplexed by the disparity between what who I knew and the stories that I'm saying. So I'm definitely having some trouble wrapping my head around that. Still do.
In the week since the death of Hollywood icon Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle, NBC News has learned more about the mental state of Nick Reiner before prosecutors say he fatally stabbed his famous parents. 3 sources with direct knowledge of the case tell NBC News the 32-year-old was being treated for a serious psychiatric disorder at the time of the crime.
And he didn't suffer from mental health issues that you could tell?
He seemed just like a dude that, just played basketball, just competitive. There was no signs of any, thing leading to something even remotely close to this,
The sources say Reiner, who had been open about his struggles with substance abuse, was diagnosed with schizophrenia several years ago, and that his medication had been changed or adjusted sometime before the killings.
Sense to me, when I knew the guy, he was very chill. It was hard to get him off the couch. We were all kind of lazy. We were 16-year-old guys. We didn't want to do chores. So
I got nightmares in my head. I fear thoughts build up until I can't. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head.
So what happens next in this case? Well, Nick Reiner's lawyer is probably going to have Nick's mental health assessed, which is a process that can take weeks, often several months. In theory, competence can be a game changer. If someone is found to be incompetent, they may avoid a trial altogether and may even avoid a custodial sentence. According to the LA Times, Jackson is now working to evaluate Reiner's history of mental health and state of mind during the commission of a crime. That is going to take time for the experts to prepare a report. Those findings could be the basis for discussions of a plea deal or the beginning of an insanity defense. In practice, and particularly in California, the NGRI defense is a tough hurdle to climb, and I personally doubt they're going to pull a legal rabbit out of a hat in this instance. You may remember in the Chris Watts case, we saw how the death penalty was successfully used on one of the dumbest criminals we've seen in recent years to leverage a plea. The death penalty in Colorado was never really on the cards for Watts, and it isn't on the cards here either. One expert makes a good case for why this case is destined for trial, why it will see the inside of a courtroom. Why? Well, because the prosecution won't offer anything less than life without the possibility of parole. And somehow I don't think Nick Reiner, who can't even handle rehab, is going to be able to handle permanent rehab in prison. Can Nick avoid prison and be sentenced to life in a mental institution? That's possible. I think Nick is going to spare no expense and ask Alan Jackson to perform a miracle. Unless Jackson is really Santa Claus, he's going to have his work cut out for him to deliver on that miracle. So what's happening legally right now is all about competence to stand trial, and to some extent Nick's competence or lack of at the time the crime was committed. On that score, the LA Times makes this very interesting observation. Doesn't the fight at the party hours before the murders prove 2 things? 1, premeditation, and 2, deliberation or intent. If both of those are present, you can kiss all the NGRI goodbye.
Will be old, and all this bullshit that you think is so important, you can just kiss all of that goodbye.
Now, before we get to the number 5 clue we all missed, just a quick shout out to Desert Omar Rose. Thanks very much for that. Cole Butler, thank you. And Merry Christmas, Edwina1781. Thanks to you as well. I think Edwina's in Mexico. If you haven't hit the thanks button, there's still time. And if you haven't subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button as well. And let's get started.
In the New York Times, friends and relatives also remembering the love of his life, Michelle, an accomplished photographer whom they described as equal parts mama bear, social planner, and glue of the family.
I sometimes feel that Michelle, Rob Reiner's wife, is kind of being missed or left out in the story because of Rob's fame. but she is also a victim of this crime. Let's back up a little and remember what we're dealing with. The number 5 clue everyone missed or forgot about is the fact that Nick had a public spat, an argument, a fight with both his parents, his father and mother, at the party. Now, you might have guessed poo-poo the disagreement is no big deal, but usually when someone leaves a big party early, following an argument, it's because it is a big deal. And this wasn't just one person leaving, it was 3 people leaving. And not only did Nick leave, right, both his parents left as well. Rob and Michelle left as well. And do you think they wanted to? I wouldn't be surprised if there was a part 2 to the verbal sparring at the party back at home. And perhaps that led to Nick stalking out at 11 o'clock, running away as he always did in order to avoid possible rehab. The LA Times speculates that Nick may have gotten into an argument with the victims and then later returned with a weapon. If so, that is premeditation, and that makes the party a vital piece of evidence filled with witnesses for the prosecution. Have a look at this from the LA Times. The Conan O'Brien party fight could be key. Prosecutors have not commented on the allegation that Rob and Nick Reiner exchanged words at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party. Some family friends told the Times the clash had been overblown, but Romani said prosecutors could use it. He said it could be used as evidence of premeditation. If you get into an argument with someone and you come back with a weapon, that's premeditation. Well, it is, isn't it? But the next point is a really fantastic one, I feel. If you're at a Christmas party having an argument with your parents, you're not insane. I mean, who doesn't do that? By the way, Niyama Rahman is a former federal prosecutor, and he expresses this quite elegantly. He says, if you're capable enough to have an argument with your parents at a Christmas party, you are not insane. And what is another word for capable? Yes, competence. And if the argument after the party was about going back to rehab and Nick didn't or wouldn't, that's an argument he's making for his own competence as well, isn't it? Hold on, so it's only when he's caught and his back is against the wall where his incompetency can benefit him. Oh, then suddenly all those appeals to seek treatment that fell on deaf ears for years, now suddenly they are valid. I do think if Nick was already on heroin as a teenager and for the rest of his life he mooched about and was still basically on substances of some sort, meds or something, did people really think things were stable and the sun would one day go down over Nick's happily ever after? Just looking at Nick's face in the weeks before the murders, he looked sudden and kind of pissed off. His mouth kind of looks like an upside down coat hanger. And I say this every time, but let me say it again.
What did you think was going to happen?
Well, I'm not going to take it further than that, but as a primer for the number 6 clue, let me ask you a simple question. Do you know who called 911 in this case? And no, it wasn't Romy. Well, I hope you are all enjoying your festive season. Whatever you are doing, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.